All right, welcome back to another episode of Real Talk 12-0 Michigan edition. Dan, what's going on, man?
Oh, Victory Tuesday, my man. And this beer tastes great, and so does that fucking victory.
Yeah. Yeah, what a fantastic victory it is. I'm living my best life right now, Dan. This is an exceptional feeling that I knew was possible, but like it just was never it was just never there. Last year was as close as we've gotten to this point, but 12-0, I mean, in my fandom, nothing like this. This is a very unique experience. I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I feel like it fits the theme here. You and we met through Flag Football League years and years and years ago. I believe it was the winter/early spring of 2012, if I'm not mistaken. It was right after the Sugar Bowl we kind of met. And that following season, Michigan kind of went into the dumps. I mean, that was really the best season to that point after Lloyd Carr had left was that 2011 season. So the following season, 2012, 2013, just wasn't really much there. We watched our first Ohio State-Michigan game together, though, in 2013, which is the famous two-point conversion. And weirdly enough, as long as we've known each other, as many like tailgates as we've been to, as many games as we've watched together, we did not watch another one until 2021.
No shit.
I was thinking about this. I had not watched another one with you. The 2-point conversion was the one, and then 0 until 2021. And then, we got together on Saturday and watched another one, another beatdown. So we're 2.5 in half. No, but for real, we're 2-1 watching the game together. And I thought about that. I'm like, that's weird that we haven't watched more, but that's really it. So we really have good success watching that game.
Yeah.
These last 2 years have been incredible. Obviously, you've had a lot of time to digest. We'll talk about the game here in a second, but just initial feelings and just like what it means to you and how 12-0 sits.
Gives you goosebumps, man. Like, going into this game, I didn't think we were gonna win. I said in the last week's episode that, my confidence kind of unraveled after Illinois, and this game just had you on the edge of your seat. This is a game like Michigan State where I'm usually standing the whole time. That's just how I am. And both beatdowns feel different. Last year was more of an emotional one. This one was like kind of like a middle finger, and then when Donovan Edwards rips off those two runs, which we'll talk about later, that was just like nail in the coffin, and that was just like, let's go, man. We got this now. Like, this isn't no fluke, back to back. And obviously, since 2000, won Columbus. Since 2003, we beat Michigan State and Ohio State. So yeah, it was just all hitting me in the same time. And when we were watching the game together, the first run, and then we both look at each other like, holy shit. And then drive later, the second one happens. You're like, dude, wow. We're like, like I said, just that middle finger, that stamp of approval. It was more of just more of a pumped up kind of feeling for me personally. And last year, like I said, it was more of an emotional win.
Yeah, I said this a couple different times now. Last year, I went into the game thinking we could win. It had to be ugly. We had to do it on our terms. The weather kind of helped. But it was an emotional victory. You nailed it on the head there. It was emotional. I shed tears that day. It was just it was one of those things that I started to ask the question, like, if we don't win this year, when are we going to win?
Mm-hmm.
Like, as good as that Michigan team was in 2021, I'm like, if they don't do it now, when? That one obviously will always have a special place. This one, though, I had people ask me, I think they were kind of joking, but they were serious and saying, did you cry? And I'm like, no, I expected to win. I didn't expect. I'm not going to sit here and flaunt. I did not expect to just obliterate them the way they did in that style. And we'll talk. It was actually a much closer game than that, but I did expect to win the game. And I said to you, and I said a couple times, we need at least Blake or Donovan, one of the two. Two would be great. One would be enough. And I thought we could, and I gave my keys to victory. You know, if you listen to either my pod or the Triple J, you know, when me and Dan talked last week, I said discipline was a key factor. In the Triple J pod, I talked just, you know, explicitly about the corners and how I thought they would be a huge factor. And the one thing that I never saw coming was the complete package against Ohio State. But this one felt more like you nailed it, a middle finger, like a listen, enough with your effing fluke talk. It ain't that, okay? Enough with your we'll get you next year. No, you won't. Right now, we're the superior brand. We're the superior team. There's a lot of obviously people have their opinions. You know, maybe Ohio State's quote unquote better than us, but we just match up with them or whatever it seems to be. Michigan right now is the best team in the Big Ten, bar none. They have a winning streak against every team in the conference, and they're 12-0 without a blemish. So it just feels incredible. 12-0 is just like it doesn't feel real at times, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, of course, this team's plenty good enough to be in this spot. Talking about the game here, as we recap, it was their first win in Columbus since 2000. Okay, it had been 22 years. On Saturday, they won by 22 points. Kind of a fun little nugget there. It was also the 100th year anniversary of Ohio Stadium, and Michigan spoiled it just like they spoiled the first game for Michigan and Ohio State in that stadium, fielding Yost 119-0. So, kind of a cool little nugget too. That Michigan was able to kind of play spoiler. Opinions on first win in 22 years, and opinions on the anniversary being spoiled.
Yeah, that's definitely awesome that we ruined their day. It was a gorgeous fall day, and just happy to see sad, downtrodden Ohio State fans. That was that. I was like Eric Hartman in that one episode where he's literally looking at kids' tears. That was, oh my God. Excuse my language here, but I fucking love it. Watching them in misery brings me no more joy. Like nothing else can bring me that much joy. It was fucking phenomenal. And then it's just surreal. It's like 2000. I was in junior high school when the last time we won there, and that was like John Navarre era. So yeah, it's crazy to think, but yeah, absolutely phenomenal.
Couple of key points here. Blake Corum tried to give it a go. I think he got 2 carries, maybe 3 or 4 snaps. Ultimately, wasn't going to be able to finish the game. Heartbroken for him, but ultimately, I think it ended up being the right call to hold him out. He wasn't going to be able to make an impact on the game. He may have even pulled himself out, it looked like, potentially, but wasn't going to be able to finish the game. JJ McCarthy plants his legacy stone in Michigan football history with that game in Columbus, and I think he's going to be a common topic in today's pod. Opinions on JJ?
Well, I kind of dogged him earlier in the game, and he made me eat my words. So I completely can admit when I'm wrong, but yeah, I was kind of harping on him when we were watching it because I think it was in the first quarter he was missing some out routes, kind of zinging them high. And I feel like that's been kind of a recurrent thing when you're doing that 5-10 yard out route. He's usually just zinging the ball over their heads, or just there's that timing pattern that's not there. But right after I dogged him, he goes out and just hits Cornelius Johnson for the first of 2 deep passes, and obviously we've had our reservations on his deep game, and didn't miss a single one all afternoon, and they were right on the money. And prove me wrong some more, JJ. Go in there and keep doing it.
Yeah, I thought he played. Weirdly enough, he was actually 50% passing, so that's not great. We've complained about 50% over the last couple of weeks, but the moments that he needed to be big, he was the biggest we've seen him all year. Facing the blitz, he threw that out route to Cornelius Johnson, and Cornelius obviously broke the tackle. He gets the credit for Cornelius's broken tackle there, but that was big time. Obviously, escaping the blitz there was big there. But the next one, the deep shot where he puts the perfect touch on the ball for Cornelius, he scores again. He has that play action to Cortland Love. Why can I not say his name? Colson Loveland, the freshman tight end. Later in the third quarter, he had a couple of really big runs. He had the one down the sideline where he kind of laid a shoulder into a defender as he was running out of bounds, and then obviously that touchdown. I believe this one was in the third quarter as well, where he kind of bulldozed his way into the end zone. I thought that was big. He just, I was listening to several different podcasts. I've heard everybody kind of break down this game, but John Jansen talked about, and Brian Bush, they talked about his hockey background and how he just isn't afraid to kind of get a little dirty, isn't afraid to block downfield, isn't afraid to put a shoulder down the defender. And I don't want this to be a CJ Stroud bash fest, but I don't see him doing that. So that was kind of cool. CJ to kind of take the reins like that and just really lead us to victory, something that we've kind of complained he hasn't been able to do. Talk about the defense here for a second. Thought the defense played really good, just as good as they did last year. They gave up points, they gave up some plays, but nothing that kind of killed them. It was really keep stuff in front of them at times. And I know me and you were obviously talking about this. The screens early in the game were getting super frustrating, but it's really kind of funny because as frustrated as we were with that, you look to Ohio State Twitter and they're like, if we see one more effing screen, we're gonna lose our minds. Like they weren't liking that. And it's like we were getting frustrated because it was kind of quote unquote working. But at the same time, they were getting so predictable and so vanilla. Yeah, it's screen, quick screen, quick screen, quick screen. They weren't willing to throw anything deep. And then once they were, it wasn't able to get going. Opinions on overall the defense, first half, second half?
Well, yeah, I mean, the first half they were, I want to say really essentially the whole game. Maybe it was the first half. They were running more of the screens rather than the second.
Yes,
I can't remember.
Yes, it was definitely the first half.
But yeah, it was definitely frustrating, and I was like, we keep getting up first downs because we're playing so soft. But the reason why Michigan's playing so soft is because obviously they want everything in front of them. They don't want to get beat deep because they got respect for the wide receiver core. And the thing is when that field gets shortened and they're down in the red zone, that's when they tighten up, and that's when they force Ohio State to kick field goals. And so that was really a big factor. So. Yeah, they'll let you move all the way down the field, but when they have to, bend but don't break kind of thing, and it worked. The pass rush wasn't really there in the first half, but as the game got on, they started to get after CJ Stroud. They started pressuring and hurrying them a little bit, and that's when we started to see the errant throws and the mistakes, and so yeah. Again, kudos to Jesse Minter for the second half adjustments. Literally 3 points in the second half given up to one of the most potent offenses in the nation. I can't complain.
Yeah, I think one thing that I was listening, obviously listened to some podcasts this week. The one thing I heard Jim Harbaugh say, and he instilled this in his team, they treated every stop like gold. They did not want to give it back. So no holding penalties, no after the ball personal fouls, like literally nothing, no offsides. They wanted to get every single stop that they could, and they treated those like gold. And then once they got that stop, they thought it was very important to respond to said stop, try to get points, try to take advantage of those things, because they knew that this Ohio State offense had the potential to drop 40 or 50 points. Unfortunately, they never sniffed that. Michigan's offense was enough to keep them off the field, and the defense was so exceptional. The first half kind of feeling each other out, kind of understanding what you wanted to do. The second half, they were completely dialed in,
Mhm.
There's really nothing you can really argue about, like, as far as being disappointed or Michigan didn't do so and so. I mean, 0 third quarter points and only 3 in the fourth quarter. Like that's nuts. Like, Michigan
Mhm.
has been the talk is always the run game. Michigan's run game. They dominated the run. The defense hasn't really been talked about that much because you don't have Aiden Hutchinson, you don't have David Ajabo, who are coming off that edge and getting 20 sacks. It's been really a total team effort. We talked about this in the offseason. We talked about this a lot. The no-name defense has been better than last year's defense. Jesse
Mhm.
Mentor has been a king. I don't think we've talked about Jesse Mentor enough, really. He has been an absolute dog. The discipline. That was my number one key to victory. Be the more disciplined team like you were in 2021. 5 penalties to 9. One of those 9 penalties was that stupid headbutt on the sideline after a holding penalty. It ended up being a 25-yard penalty. I think it was first and 35, first
Yeah.
and 37, something crazy. And we literally said, like, listen, this has got to be a stop here. And it
Yeah.
was. It was. And that ended up becoming, I believe, where after that stop, they ended up getting the Colson Loveland touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. But they followed that up with a touchdown. That's a killer. Michigan's
Yeah.
up at that point, then they score a touchdown. Being the more disciplined team, game in and game out, and especially against Ohio State, I thought was a massive key. Over before we get to likes, dislikes, more of. Any other opinions here?
Um. Well, I'll just
Any
say,
other weird things that stuck out? Anything?
um, we obviously know how State's going to get theirs, and they, their plays, and I noticed that we had Will Johnson, DJ Turner, and Sanders still could have been on Marvin Harrison Jr., but hats off to Harrison Jr. He's got some of the most like gifted adjustment skill level I've ever seen in my life. Like the guy's gonna be phenomenal at the next level. But really, hats off to the Michigan corners for not really letting it get out of control. I know Harrison caught a deep one, but I mean, did the best job as expected, right?
Yeah.
Um, you know, I I'll wait to really get into my likes, dislikes, whatever more of, because that's really part of my breakdown. But you know, I wouldn't say Ohio. I'll say this before we go into that segment. Ohio State last year got manhandled all afternoon. Offensive line in the trenches, whatever. They just got bossed, and that's essentially how Hassan Haskins got 5 touchdowns. And you could see it there late in the fourth quarter, where especially on that last run, they just let Haskins walk in there because they had no more fight in them. We squeezed it out of them. This year, Ohio State I'll give them kudos, man. They came in with toughness, and in the first quarter, especially, they did not let us run the ball worth anything. Zach Harrison, Tumalau, they were really getting to the quarterback, the running backs. They were not letting them get out of the tackles area. But what was the big key is JJ's arm, throwing it up top, softening them up, and then that's when the runs came. But yeah, that's really just want to add before we get into the next one.
Yeah, a couple other key points I wanted to touch on. I don't want to just criticize Ohio State, because I do think this was the theme of this podcast over the last couple of weeks is, and I tagged you this on Facebook after the game, because this is kind of like what we've been saying. This wasn't about Ohio State. Nowhere in my confidence over the last several weeks have I thought, because Ohio State sucks at this, or Ohio State can't do this. It had nothing to do with Ohio State. It was always about Michigan and what I felt Michigan could do. With that said, I didn't think Ohio State did themselves a lot of favors. I did think it was very interesting that they saved the Michigan-Ohio State game, number 2 versus number 3, to allow Tatum, a linebacker, take 14 carries for 83 yards. Myron Williams, who was a very good serviceable number 2 for them all year. Took 8 carries for 34. Hayden, who's gotten some play over the last couple of weeks and has been kind of a star. 2 carries for 7 yards. Wasn't really involved in the pass game. He's been a great little screen back lately. I thought that was really interesting, their usage of just running backs in this game, especially because that's something they quote unquote wanted to do, trying to establish the run, kind of keep Michigan off the field a little bit. And I thought they had some early success with it, and it kind of went away. And obviously their use of running backs could have played part into that.
Right.
I just thought that was really interesting. Again, not really to criticize them, but I just don't think they did themselves a lot of favors. One of the other keys was that Abuka and Fleming hadn't really been an impact player over the last couple of weeks. It's been all the Marvin Harrison Jr. show. Abuka had a great game, 9 catches, 125 and a touchdown. Fleming 5 for 47. I mean, it seemed like that Xavier Johnson, even though he didn't do a ton, he had 2 carries for 24 yards and he had 3 catches for 13. That doesn't seem like a lot. It seemed like his name was getting called a ton in that first half, if you remember, number 10 for Ohio State. I don't know. I thought Ohio State had a really solid game plan in the first, like you alluded to. Yeah. Established the run, stopped the run. They played real tough. And as that game started to go on, it seemed like C.J. Stroud got more and more uncomfortable, and Michigan got more and more comfortable, especially once they got Donovan Edwards kind of going in that second half. It just seemed like Michigan became a completely different team. And I've seen several people, Michigan didn't dominate. I guess I see why you're saying that, because it was a game in the fourth quarter, but no, that was domination. I mean, that they took that and turned it into a dominant effort. Overall, what was your like?
I got a lot of them. So
yeah, list them out, baby. List them out.
So this was, if you could ever describe this game as a team win, dude, this was a team win. We got contributions literally everywhere, right?
Yes.
First of all, Braden McGregor, haven't heard much of him since September. He had almost 2 picks, got his hands up in the ball, swatting the ball down. He deflected that one screen pass. He annihilated one of the running backs for Ohio State that was the kind of third down run, and he went around the tail end there and just ripped his head off, essentially like Hutchinson style. Give him credit. He's getting praise from Jim Harbaugh about him taking it to the next level in the future. I think one of the biggest plays of the game was Mike Sanderstill's pass breakup on Kalen Stover in the end zone. I mean, Sanderstill was recruited to be a defensive back, right? So then has pretty much played his entire career as a wide receiver for Michigan and has now just made this seamless transition to DB. And, dude, I mean, that was like one of the biggest clutch freaking PBUs of all time. So kudos to Mikey. And that wasn't even his only play. He was everywhere. Yabioki. I mean, this game could have gotten even worse for Ohio State. That should have been a sacked fumble on C.J. Stroud. They blew the ball dead. Taylor Upshaw is literally right there about to pick the ball up. And I would have been absolutely ecstatic. I would have been jumping through my ceiling if Taylor Upshaw would have picked up that fumble for a scoop and score. Oh, my God. Columbus would have nuked itself if that was not blown dead, because that was clearly a fumble. Mozzie Smith made a lot of good plays up the gut. Cleo Mullings, our linebacker / running 4th string running back, does that pop Tebow pass. That was another one. Colson Loveland breaking downfield on that play, or that was Schoonmaker. Sorry, Colson Loveland's touchdown that you mentioned. Cornelius Johnson having the game of his life. Obviously, he's been up and down. Donovan Edwards, Michael Barrett's all over the field on sideline to sideline. Again, just contributions from everybody. I'm probably missing somebody. I don't know. And then lastly, we talked about it after the Illinois game. We've talked about it after the Penn State. We talked about it many times, but Jim Harbaugh, and always giving credit to his players and coaches. Again, Tom Rinaldi for Fox, is on the sideline and he's trying to interview Jim Harbaugh, and he's got JJ McCarthy there. He's like, talk to this guy. He's like, I love you, buddy. And then he hugs JJ, and then Tom Rinaldi's trying to ask him a question. Jim Harbaugh doesn't want any of it, and he walks away. Now, part of it, Jim Harbaugh hates on-field interviews, but again, he's also really caring for his players. You can't take that away. So then while Tom Rinaldi's asking J.J. McCarthy questions, you see Jim Harbaugh in the background grab Donovan Edwards, push him up to the camera, and he's like, "Hey, talk to this guy too," and then he walks away. Tom Rinaldi's still trying to put the mic in Jim's face. He ain't having it. He wants his players to take the glory, and so that was. I can't say enough on how much I respect him for that. Oh, and sorry, I forgot one. I don't mean to cut you off right there.
You're good.
Also, real quick, Michigan didn't get baited into the tomfoolery, which is the pushing and shoving matches. So, like, unlike 2013, where there was flags thrown, players booted off, and whatever, there was a little, pushing and shoving action. CJ Stokes was jawing his mouth, but JJ pushed him away and split it up. And then obviously that one player for Ohio State, the tight end, whatever, who uses his helmet as a missile into Rod Moore's helmet. Rod Moore just stood there, didn't retaliate, let him get the penalty. And obviously we just talked about that. How about that was like 3rd and 25. So they were there to win, and they had their minds right. So yeah.
Yeah, for me, I have a couple things here. If you're going to be on my disliked for half the season, when you ball out, I have to give you your flowers. JJ McCarthy played the game of his life. It'll be remembered for a very long time. And I hope it's the start of what is going to be an incredible junior year for him. And let's not get ahead of ourselves. What will hopefully be an incredible playoff run as well. JJ McCarthy was fantastic. I thought he was a leader. I thought he played big. I thought he played above his shoulders. I thought he made all the right plays. There was a couple of things I was like, but for the most part, it was overshadowed by all the great. The toughness was there. Everything about the game that he played, I thought was great. Second thing, I think this is huge going into what is now postseason football. 3rd and 4th down defense was, and I repeat, remarkable. 5 of 16 on 3rd down for Ohio State. 0 for 1 on 4th down. Ryan Day was asked after the game why he didn't go for more 4th down opportunities. He said straight up to the camera, we weren't getting it done on 3rd down. I wasn't sure we would get it done on 4th. Michigan was so good. 5 of 16 on 3rd down. With that offense, with that weather, they were remarkable. As you alluded to, Sanders still with the pass breakup, McGregor on that screen. Gosh, there's so many. There's so many plays that we could pinpoint. But the 3rd down and 4th down defense for this game in those situations, in that environment, my gosh, unreal. Next thing I have, I felt like they emptied the bag of tricks. They didn't overdo it, but the play, you could just tell, as J.J. McCarthy said in his last interview after the Illinois game, he goes, we feel there's still meat on the bone, and it's coming off on Saturday. And I thought that lived up to that. The halfback pass on 3rd and 1, the play action passing, finally, it just seemed like the play action pass was really working. Overall, just doing whatever you needed to do to win. And last but not least, and you kind of already touched on it, total team effort. It just seemed like everybody that walked on the field made a play. You had one play that you could pinpoint for every single player that touched that field, it seemed like. Michigan just played Michigan. They just played like Michigan. I'll let you take disliked away.
Ain't nothing I didn't like. The only thing I don't like is me constantly rewatching the final 2 long runs that Donovan Edwards broke off. Again, Ohio State fans be like, rolling their eyes at that. But honestly, dude, again, because those ass hats tears taste so good, like watching those 2 runs. Like, I wish I could have been in the stadium to hear the pin drops in there. I honestly, remember those forever. And Jim Harbaugh was quoted saying, Donovan Edwards wasn't going to play against Ohio State today, but he put a cast on, and now he's a legend. So
that's unreal. That is literally unreal.
Yeah. So it's nothing I didn't like, man. I mean, if you want to nitpick, go ahead, but I didn't hate anything.
So I have something. I dislike that Blake lost his Heisman campaign. I dislike that Blake Corum couldn't give it more of a go. I am heartbroken for that kid. That's all I had for disliked, because that was everything we wanted as Michigan fans, just to go into Columbus and play your best game, your complete game, and they did. I can't pick apart anything else. I hate that Blake lost what was potentially going to be a very great season for him. And I guess the one thing I will say, not that I would root for an injury for Blake, because I wouldn't, but this is falling in line with what this team's about. No name defense, no star quarterback. Like, obviously JJ's a 5-star, but it's like he's been doubted all year. It just seems like whoever takes a snap for this team makes a play. They're willing to win with whoever is out there. I think it's just setting up perfectly. As far as the more of for me, play action passes I thought were huge in this game. Finally starting to see a little bit of that run pass option, the play action pass. And I thought that really exposed Ohio State on the back end. I say it every week. I feel like this team, this energy, 4-0 on the road this season.
Hell yeah.
4-0. 4-0 on the road. Last time they went 4-0 on the road, they won the Natty. Just throwing that out there. Back-to-back undefeated home seasons. Man, this team they're so special. I freaking love that we talk about them every week. I love that, the next game, my confidence level's through the roof because of the way they play. I just want more of this team. I want more of Donovan Edwards. I want more of JJ McCarthy. I want more of Mason Graham, more of Mike Sanders still, more of Jake Moody. Speaking of Jake Moody.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you got for more of?
Dude, man, more of let's just keep stacking these seasons, dude. As Michigan fans, players, coaches, whatever, we've just been so much up and down emotionally over these last 15, 20 years, starting with Lloyd Carr getting phased out because he was running out of steam, and the last really solid team he put together fell short in Columbus in 2006 and lost to USC, which was at the time the Alabama of the world. And I posted on Facebook to follow up to follow these part of the early the true freshmen of the Lloyd Carr era into the Rich Rodriguez guys, and then get into Brady Hoke, taking over 2011 and winning the Sugar Bowl. Like, I was extremely attached to those guys because none of those guys ever beat Ohio State before, and all these younger guys, they just needed a taste of it. It was just so rejuvenating. And then obviously we hit that rough patch, and now we've gone through the gauntlet with Jim Harbaugh himself, and now that we have kind of forgiven him for what we harped on him for so long, and we haven't surpassed Ohio State yet, but now we have met them at their tier. We are this past weekend, I am fully confident that we are now at the same mark that they are. Like you said, our goals were, what we wanted as fan was, take care of all the other teams first, can worry about consistently taking care of everybody else, then gradually move up the ladder. Now that we've slayed the dragon, which is Ohio State, now let's make our mark and let's stack these seasons. And again, these Buckeye tiers are so fucking delicious. These guys are so unhinged. These assholes are so spoiled. Now, I don't have, I'm kind of generalizing them, right? I understand there's nothing wrong with wanting your team to win. Like Coach K in Duke, he gets bounced out of the tournament early. They call for his head. He's a Hall of Fame coach. It would be asinine to fire him. But like, these guys are so unhinged. They've unraveled so much. They're calling Ryan Day John Cooper 2.0. They want to get him fired. They want Urban Meyer to come back. Now they want Mike Vrabel. These guys are so stupid. Like, you've lost 2 Big Ten games in like 4 years, right? Any program in the nation that wants to get to a certain high level of football, they want to be where Ohio State's at. It's where we wanted to be. Yeah, it's a shame C.J. Stroud's not going to potentially play for a national championship or win one. But yeah, it's a shame that all these wide receivers come in. They're going in the NFL, but they don't have any, national championship rings. Who gives a shit? Keep working at it. There's only one winner every single year, and there's been plenty of great Michigan players that never sniffed glory, and these guys get their ass kicked last year in the Big House. And then they dismantle their entire defense. They changed out their coaching staff. And guess what? You still took the fucking pipe the same way you did last year. And I absolutely love it. And these guys are crying all over Twitter. Oh, if those 3 big touchdowns that Michigan had didn't happen, then we would have won. Yeah, no shit. But guess what? They did happen. You guys didn't make the plays. We did. Sure, it wasn't a dominating victory from first to fourth quarter. But guess what? At the end of the game, when it mattered, we put 3 nails in your coffin. We buried you, and then we dumped your ass in the ocean at the next to Megatron down there in the Pacific Ocean while you're just having crabs eat at your ball sack. Dude, I'm just so sick of these Buckeyes. Just be grateful. You had a solid year run, and two games you've completely lost your mind. And again, you guys can. Expect the best. I completely agree. You don't want to lose, but the overreactions are absolutely hilarious. Ohio State Twitter can be more of a dumpster fire, and I'm here for it. And I hope that TCU wins, and I hope USC wins. That way, your bitch asses can sit on your couch and watch you guys play Oregon or whatever bum the Pac-12 spits out there in the Rose Bowl, and then you have like 4 or 5 of your guys sit out of the bowl game. And then C.J. Stroud's going to have to throw 8 touchdowns for you guys to win by 1 point. That's all I give a shit about. So sit home, watch us beat up on Purdue, and suck it.
A lot there. A lot to break down. Couple things I want to say real quick. First thing about Ohio State fans. And I mean this, again, we're generalizing here. Ohio State fans legitimately think they're Alabama. I'm sorry, but you're not. You haven't even had even a blink of their success. You've won 1 national championship in the college football playoff era. Alabama has won multiple. Clemson has won more than Ohio State. Okay? Clemson, little old Clemson, that 10 years ago, nobody heard of. Okay? Ohio State is not what they act like they are. Second thing. Dan, who's your favorite Wolverine that's ever worn the winged helmet?
Mario Manningham.
I know. Give me another one of your favorites. Give me another one. Mike Hart. Yep. You know what Mario Manningham's record against Ohio State is? He's 0 for 3. 0 for 3.
0 for 3, yeah.
Mike Hart, 0 for 4. Okay? CJ Stroud is 0 for 2. That does not take away that he had 2 exceptional seasons for Ohio State. Like all these Buckeye fans that call for this dude's head continuously. I'm not his biggest fan, but I also am not an Ohio State fan. And if he played for my team and he threw 40 bombs a year, I'd be pretty ecstatic. Okay? But he doesn't. The idea that like we're just gonna like turn on CJ Stroud at every corner, and I have this running joke. I said it last year about firing Ryan Day. And it's met with pure sarcasm and comedy because every single year I had to deal with these Buckeye fans getting up in my face. You guys going to fire Jim Harbaugh? And part of it, I think they were a little scared. They were scared of this. They were scared that this could happen because I think everybody ultimately thought this is what Michigan was going to be immediately. And unfortunately, it took longer than immediately. It took longer than 5 years. But guess what? once it happened, this boy is like a train rolling down a hill with no brakes. It's coming, and it's coming fast. It's coming to Ann Arbor. It's coming to Columbus, and frankly, it doesn't seem like it can be stopped right now. And I understand Ohio State's their thought process is, well, maybe Ryan Day isn't the guy to get it done. But he was 4 years ago and 3 years ago, but all of a sudden he's not. This dude's 45-5. In 50 games, he's lost 5 of them. It's bonkers that they would want this guy fired. Now, mind you, again, I like to shit on him here and there. He was born on third base. He took over Urban's guys. All those things are true. But stop with this. It's not CJ Stroud's fault. It's not Ryan Day's fault. Back to my initial slogan. This is about Michigan. This is about what Michigan did. Ohio State needs to revamp some stuff. It's not CJ Stroud's fault they lost. Dude threw for 400 yards in Ann Arbor last year. He was incredible.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud can't stop Hassan Haskins from scoring 5 touchdowns. Okay? CJ Stroud can't stop Donovan Edwards from going for 2 bills in the fourth quarter alone. Okay? That's not CJ Stroud's fault. Ryan Day thought he had Jim Knowles, and I was told by many Buckeye fans that Jim Knowles was the guy. Oh, he's got Michigan solved. He's got this deep. Stop. I tried telling you guys. This is about Michigan. What Michigan does, they bully every single team they play. Who's the one that they didn't? A 1-of-1 Hall of Fame level Georgia defense. We'll see if in a couple weeks if that changes. But Michigan bullies everybody. And this Ohio State concept, like, oh, their defense is. Sorry, it wasn't the case.
Hey, and guess what? If you guys forgot, you guys only got 3 points on that Vanderbilt Commodores defensive coordinator that everyone was shitting on. Only 3. 3. So, eat shit. And that's all I gotta say. I thought it was hilarious too that on Twitter, the cesspool of morons. I remember in 2020, Jim Harbaugh, keep extending his contract. Let Jim Harbaugh, don't ever, keep him in Ann Arbor. Don't let him ever leave again. And on like an 11 Warriors post or one of these bucknut, idiotic boards somewhere where they said something like they posed a question: is there an NFL job that Jim Harbaugh would take? I'm like, oh, so you guys already changed your tune. You already changed your tune. You guys, I swear to God, man, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but some of these Buckeye fans are so goddamn soft. It is absolutely hilarious. And again, I'll probably, after this podcast, I'll probably turn on YouTube and I'll watch all the Ohio State fans sitting there crying and putting their head down. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Everyone was making fun of Jim Harbaugh's son at that one game with his mom when he was crying or whatever, and it was a big gif and everything went viral. Guess what? I'll sit here and I'll watch these grown-ass people crying over here because oh my God, we lost 2 games in 20 years. Jesus, oh my God. Fuck off. Sorry, go ahead.
You're good. Ohio State in Ryan Day's time. You ready? Here are their losses. Clemson in the semifinals. Bama in the national title game. Oregon at home. Michigan on the road. Michigan at home. Those are his 5 losses. Dude's not losing to Toledo. He's got, I hate Ryan Day. Like I said, dude's born on third. But at the same time, let's pump the brakes on him. Joe Klatt also said something that kind of makes Ryan Day look kind of bad, and I get this concept. He said that Ryan Day / Ohio State, Urban Meyer, Ryan Day, whoever you want to say, Ohio State in general, they weren't beating up Michigan. They were beating up a bad Big Ten team. You know what I mean? This type of Michigan football team is the one that you want to hang your hat on as far as a win. There's been a couple of select seasons in there that Michigan has been competitive. You could definitely count 2018, 2016. Both of those wins, those are good Michigan teams that they got wins over. 2011, Michigan won that one. That was one of their good seasons, There are not too many times where Michigan has been a powerhouse, so to speak, that Ohio State's beating them. Yeah. Gosh, literally that COVID year, yeah, obviously that game didn't happen. Had you played that team, That's not an impressive win. It's just not. 2008, not an impressive win. 2009, not an impressive win. 2010, not an impressive win. The John O'Corn, whenever 2017, not an impressive win by any stretch of the imagination. And shockingly, the 2017 game came down to the wire. Those are the things that Joe Cloud was trying to say. Like, be proud of a win today rather than 10 years ago. You want to flaunt about beating Michigan over like a drum over the last 10 years? It's not impressive. It's not impressive. Well, you didn't do anything special.
And that's another funny thing too, is they're already deflecting. It's like, oh, you guys got 2, you guys still are 2-15 in the last 17. It's like, okay, dude, so these same morons that were always criticizing Michigan fans for being like, oh, we own the all-time record in the rivalry series, or back in the 90s, whatever, you guys were 3-10-1 against, with John Cooper. But now it's just like apparently every fan base does it, because Michigan State does it too with D'Antonio. Just moving the goalposts.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so
fit the narrative.
I don't want to hear any more of living in the past shit. If Michigan does it, if we bring up the past again, because you're all doing it too. It's just beating the drum here. But yeah.
Here's where I'm laying this to rest. Michigan is on a 2-game winning streak. Okay? They also hold the overall record in the series. However else you want to spin it, really doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter. I don't care that they only won 3 of the last. I don't give 2 shits. They have won the last 2, and they have the overall series. You want to spin it another way? Go cry about it in your history books. Go talk to your history teacher about it. I'm not him. Don't want to talk about that. Anything else on Ohio State, Ryan Day, Michigan? Anything else in that case? Otherwise, we'll move on to some other stuff here.
No, I'm ready to move on to what's next? Recruiting.
Yeah, let's talk some recruiting. I know you probably have some of this stuff written down. Michigan was able to land a couple of big-time recruits after the Michigan-Ohio State game, and they did lose another recruit today. You want to touch on those things?
Yeah, so real quick, just again, with this win is absolutely huge for the rivalry, essentially, and especially Michigan football, really mainly. But, on the spot, we had I think Ohio State had at least a decent sized list of high school visits, college visits from high school, the next class. Breon Ishmael, Cameron Calhoun, and Jason Hewlett, even Luke Hamilton. All 4 of those guys committed, from Saturday, the moment the game ended, till yesterday. Breon Ishmael was actually, I think it might have been Friday. Cameron Calhoun was visiting and watched the game on the sidelines. He was wearing a Ohio State hoodie, which was hilarious, and he committed to Michigan. Now, none of these guys have offers from Ohio State, but they have obviously been recruited, and they have mutual interest at the time. And then Jason Hewlett was on Monday. And then Luke Hamilton, which is one of the 4-star offensive tackles out of Avon, Ohio. He'll be in the 2024 class with Jaden Davis, hopefully. So just like that, with one stroke of a brush, one win on the road, back-to-back years, and you're already getting these kids, and you're already grabbing the attention. Now, a lot of that, too, comes from Ohio State, where, they were downplaying, some of those guys are only 3 or 4 stars, depending on the website. I don't care if it's a 2-star or unranked player. If we're already making an impact for just winning, like the moment we even get on the buses to come home, and a guy that's visiting your school, potentially going to be playing for you, then commits to us with an Ohio State hoodie on, I'd be embarrassed. But yeah, I mean, that goes to show you that you see the trend going in the right direction from that.
And the thing is it's a pretty well-known fact that Michigan's not offering the bag ahead of time.
Yeah.
You come to Michigan, you play, you will make money. Period, point blank, end of story. But we're not going to throw a car at you or a truckload of money to get you to come play at Michigan. No. It doesn't build. That's not the culture that Jim Harbaugh is setting. He's made it very clear. You come, you play, you succeed, you get paid. Prior to that, no. You know, unfortunately, I think Michigan lost a recruit today. The pass rusher heading to Miami. I'm sorry if you lose a commitment from a 12-0 Michigan team to a 5-7. I think they're 5-7. Yeah, 5-7 Miami Hurricane team. Yeah, that's about the bag. Let's be honest here. That's where it's at. So, anything more on recruiting?
Nope, that's it.
Two big time hires in the Big Ten that happened over the weekend. One of them literally broke on game day. One of them broke, I believe, Sunday morning. Nebraska hires Matt Rule. You called this back way back when. Opinions on this hire?
Yeah, I thought when I had the take at the time, I thought it made sense, and it still makes sense to me. Obviously, Matt Rule from from Baylor, took over Art Briles, his disaster at Baylor, and really turned those guys around really fast. And didn't pan out for him in Carolina. Going from college to pro is a different beast. Nick Saban, was never a great NFL coach, but he's found a home in the NCAA, and so that's just how it pans. How be panned out here for him. And so Nebraska, it's a good job, and I think it's one of the better jobs in America. If it's done right, and so he's got the Midwest ties. I think Nebraska should be someone to look out for.
Yeah, I thought it was a home run. I think it will work out. Ultimately, I want to kind of pump the brakes before we even get started. I'm not sure what the expectation is, but I don't think you can just expect them to come in and beat Michigan, beat Ohio State, beat Wisconsin.
Right.
I mean, we'll talk about Wisconsin in a second, but like some of these programs, especially with USC coming in, like give it some time. This needs to be at least a 5-year hire, at least. Matt Rule is good enough. He has proven that he can turn programs around. You cannot expect a 2-year, 3-year turnaround. I mean, literally, Jim Harbaugh is at his absolute apex peak right now, and it took him damn near 7 years to do it. Like these things, these programs. Now, mind you, there are instances where guys have turned it around. Lincoln Riley at USC obviously he might be a special breed. Brian Kelly, took over the LSU team. They peaked for a little bit. They're kind of back down to earth now. You can see some success, but it cannot just be like you can't expect them to be a playoff contender. If this team can squeak in over the next 5 years, I think you know what you have, especially with an expanded playoffs. Moving on, Wisconsin hires Luke Fickell, gets Luke Fickell to leave Cincinnati after last year being a playoff contender. This year he is leaving to go to Wisconsin. Opinions on this hire?
This one is really intriguing to me. I don't know how. I mean, I like the hire. I think Luke Fickell did a great job at Cincy. He deserves a shot in the Big Ten. Yeah. Just think that, I'll wait to make my judgment so I see obviously later on. But a lot of Ohio State assistants have gone elsewhere and not had great success. Like Tom Harmon went to Texas. I thought he was going to really take off with that offense, and that was a spark that lasted, about the duration of a fart. So, we'll see. I know Barry Alvarez. I think he's still the athletic director there. I could be wrong, but obviously, Barry Alvarez was born on campus for Christ's sake. Not literally, but he's even been the interim head coach before they got Paul Chryst, I believe. So I don't know if Barry Alvarez is going to have, his hands in the pot, or if he's going to give the key to the city to Luke Fickell per se. But I like the Matt Rule one better than Fickell, but I think Fickell has a shot here to really prove himself.
Yeah, two things. The first thing that doesn't make sense, and the second thing that I find intriguing. The first thing is, I thought the reason they fired Paul Chryst mid-season was because they wanted to see what they had in Jim Leonard. So after 3 or 4 games, you don't like what you have in Jim Leonard, or like what?
Right.
That's kind of weird. Like, wasn't that kind of what we were sold to believe, that Jim Leonard was potentially going to be the next guy?
Yeah, and then now the question on the internet was, is Luke Fickell going to keep Jim Leonard on staff, or is Jim Leonard or is he going to go to the NFL? So maybe Jim Leonard told the athletic director, like, hey,
this wasn't for me.
Yeah, I don't know.
So second thing is Wisconsin. What are they known for? linemen, running backs. I'm interested to see what Luke Fickell can do with Wisconsin. Do they become more of a passing team? Do they become more of a spread option team? He had some pretty stout defenses at Cincinnati. Obviously, Sauce Gardner was one of his main guys. So it'll be interesting to see what he kind of does with this team. He had a stellar quarterback and a stellar corner. What is the vision of Wisconsin? What does that look like moving forward? Because they are definitely offensive tackle you and running back you. At least they have been over the last decade. What do they become in the next 5 years? That'll be interesting. And I think that this team has more potential to be better quicker than Nebraska does. So judging those two teams against each other over the next 5 years will be interesting as well. Well, as good as JJ was this past week, and as this season has gone on, comes the news of Cade McNamara. We kind of expected this. He's transferring. Before we give our opinions on Cade.
Yeah, just again, we have, I both have, the utmost respect for him, and we had all of our faith in him going into this season, and obviously didn't work out. He got hurt, had to have surgery, but yeah, I'll always be grateful for 2021, man. That was a memorable season, and he was at times wasn't asked to do a million things or a ton of things, but he did. He was a great leader, great captain, and from what I hear, he always had a smile on his face inside and out of the Schembeckler Hall locker room. So whoever program he ends up, they're gonna be happy, and he's not gonna be like a first or second round pick in the NFL draft, but he's gonna make another program better.
Yeah, I think everything you said is I would echo that. Cade McNamara was the quarterback that Michigan needed. Michigan thought they needed a 5-star kid. Michigan thought they needed Joe Milton or Shea Patterson or Dylan McCaffrey or JJ. No, they just needed a simple guy that was willing to lead a team, to be the head, the shoulders, the heart of an offense, and lead a team into battle with confidence. And Cade was every bit of that. Gonna miss Cade. I think going into this, I've always been a defender. QB1, QB1, QB1. JJ's proved to me that he deserved this job, and it sucks to see Cade go. I hate that the last two things that Cade really dealt with was being booed off the field and then getting his leg, injured. So that kind of sucks for his legacy here. But for me, his legacy will be 2021. Leading those Wolverines into Ann Arbor against the Buckeyes in an absolute beatdown. So good for him, and winning the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So opinions on where he goes. For me, it just screams Iowa.
I know, right? I kind of hope he doesn't go to Iowa, because I don't feel like they have a really good offensive staff there. He's probably going to go to a school, something like that, where it's a lot predicated on the run game, and be more of a field general. But yeah, I mean, whatever Big Ten school needs a quarterback, I bet you they recruit him hard, and hopefully Michigan doesn't ever have to play him. And I'm not saying I'd be afraid to play Cade McNamara, but it'd just be awkward, be weird, and yeah, it'd just be something I wouldn't want to see. It'd be like watching, I don't know. It'd just be different.
I get it. The other one that kind of slowly goes under the radar, and I don't fully know their QB situation, but it can't be that great. They were 5-7. The U, if Gaddis calls them up,
right.
Says, hey, we're just kind of looking we need a revamp in this locker room. This is a team that we want to have championship aspirations. We need 1 year of Cade McNamara. I could see that being a potential destination. He is a Vegas kid, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean,
Nevada.
Yeah, maybe he goes Pac-12. Maybe he goes to Utah. Who knows?
Yeah. We talked about a lot, but we got mailbag and Big Ten left. Are you ready for some mailbag questions?
LFG, let's go.
Okay, sorry here. I'm pulling it up as we speak. All right, question number 1. This is so obvious. Does Ryan Day get fired? This one comes in from Shane.
He doesn't get fired. I don't think he does.
No, definitely not this season. I will say this. If he somehow happens to get into the playoffs and they get embarrassed, maybe. I think something more has to happen this year for him to get removed. As of right now, he's definitely not getting fired. Shane comes in again, though. Does anybody outside the current top 4 make the playoffs? So as of right now, if you guys haven't seen, it's Georgia, it's Michigan, TCU, USC. Do you think that's the 4, or do you think Ohio State, Alabama, or somebody else?
If TCU takes care of their business, if USC takes care of their business, obviously they're going to be in. But if any one of those lose, I think Ohio State will sneak in there. Now, if both of those teams lose, TCU and USC, then we're going to have some drama. Because obviously, you have some SEC bias kind of lingering and lurking in the shadows there. So it'll be interesting to see if they give Alabama love or not, or Tennessee. I don't know what they do there. I expect both these teams to win this week. I don't think anyone loses their championship, their conference championship games this week. If they do, if any one of these 4 do, oh boy, there's going to be a lot of hooting and hollering going on. But I think Ohio State would be 100% the first one to take the 4 spot if one of those guys goes down.
Coming in from Jamie Lado. Put a percentage on the 4 teams to make the playoffs. TCU first. They play Kansas State this weekend.
Oh boy, I give them like a 60% or 65% chance of making it.
Let's go ahead and do this. TCU or Kansas State this weekend? I got TCU. They beat them once. I know it's hard to beat a team twice.
Right.
This TCU team seems special. They're led by a great quarterback. This is a pretty darn good team.
I think I'm gonna go with TCU as well. Again, I still stick with 60%. However, Kansas State, if they have their healthy quarterback back, like the Casey Thompson, I think we'll see some fireworks, whatever. But yeah, I'll go Horned Frogs.
USC percentage of them.
I think
now they play Utah and they lost to Utah before already.
Yeah, I give them like an 80% shot. Caleb Williams is playing a lot better than at that time they lost. And again, I don't see them getting swept.
Yeah, I think I like that percentage. Maybe a hair under, maybe at 70. I do like USC in this game. Their loss came at Utah, one of the toughest places to play in the country, and it came on a 2-point conversion. So Utah played their best game and threw kind of all their shots at them. As you alluded to, Caleb Williams has been way better since then. And this team seems to have a lot of momentum. And honestly, with a win over Utah, it'd be weird, but I could even see them hopping TCU. This USC team, revenging a loss could mean a lot. I like them to get in, though. I like them beating Utah. Ohio State, chances of them getting in.
Well, before I give mine, I think ESPN's got them at like 88%.
That's bonkers.
Yeah. I'd say I'd give them like a 30 or 40%.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So, I mean, I'm roughly a 65-70 for both teams. So 30% would be the remainder. I'll give it an extra kicker because they have 2 teams with a chance to lose. Maybe 35-40%, but it can't be over 50. They're not even in the top 4. I mean, they need help. So it would be interesting to see Ohio State get in, and then obviously they'd probably play Georgia. But Bama.
I'd give them like a 10, 5 or a 10, because if they even get in the top 4, they need TCU to get like blown the hell out. They need USC to get beat in an ugly fashion. It's just a lot to ask. And even if TCU loses a close one, maybe they just drop the 4. or maybe they stay where they're at. I don't know, but yeah, Alabama needs just way too much. I think it's like, yeah, probably I'll say 5 to 10.
Yeah, they need too many losses. They need TCU and USC to probably lose to drop both them out. Ohio State get in and Bama get in. I think Ohio State gets in over Bama, so Bama just needs way too many things to happen. It doesn't make sense. I got them to 5 to 10 as well. That's probably in there. And that's it for the mailbag. All right, Big Ten championship time. 8-4 Purdue heads to Indianapolis with Michigan to battle for the Big Ten championship, East versus West. This is their first game since 2017. Fun fact. Last loss, little trivia question. When's the last time they lost to Purdue? Do you know?
Probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere. Maybe it was at Kyle Orton.
It was actually Rich Rod years. It was 08 and 09, both back to back. They lost both.
Oh, okay, duh. Yeah, you're right.
But Michigan leads the all-time series 45-14. So this is a team that Michigan traditionally takes care of. I mean, obviously there's some upsets in there. Last but not least, Michigan has never, ever gone 13-0. So kind of a weird little statistic there. You're going to be there. I'll let you take this one away.
Oh, yeah. 2 years in Indy, 2 years I'm there in person. I can't wait. But yeah, 16.5 favorite for U of M. Purdue has tallied a few nice wins this year. They beat Minnesota, Maryland, Illinois. Their offense in terms of passing is, I think they have the second ranked offense in the conference in terms of passing. Charlie Jones, who came over from Iowa, is leaving the receiving corps. These dudes can throw, and in O'Connell has thrown for over 400 yards once and 300 yards 4 times this season. So you kind of look at that and say that their defense isn't really that great, so they got to be in a lot of shootouts. They're kind of middle of the pack on the defense, both rushing and passing. And the spread seems a little bit steep for me. I'm not going to take these guys lightly. Obviously, Purdue can usually sneak up on somebody. Like I mentioned, those 3 wins, pretty good ones, but they've also beaten Ohio State just as about the same, or if not more than Michigan has in recent memory. I think that if Michigan gets Donovan Edwards healthy enough, I think this is just going to be keep away ball, keep these guys off the field, and I think we're going to see back to our old ways of beating you in the trenches and taking away your weapons on O. And so I think really outside of Charlie Jones, their wide receiver, I don't really see too many threats. But I think that we've grown really a lot since Maryland game, and that Maryland game was really outside the Ohio State game, where we kind of were a little more vulnerable in the past, but we've really locked it down, and I think Michigan can win by at least two touchdowns.
I agree. Here's what you need to know here. Okay. Early in the season, this team barely lost to Penn State, who's very good. This team barely lost to Syracuse, who was pretty good, had a pretty good season. Okay. But then as the season progressed, their defense got really, really bad. They gave up 29 points to Maryland, which isn't bad. Maryland's a pretty good squad. They gave up 37 to Nebraska. They gave up 35 to Wisconsin in a loss. And worst of all, they lost 24-3 to Iowa. Iowa, who doesn't score at all. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just not a good look. They only scored 17 against Northwestern a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Michigan's going to put it down on them. I like Michigan by at least 3 scores. I think it's an easy cover. I think Michigan is super focused right now. Last year would have been the perfect time to have a let me up game against Iowa, and it wasn't even close. I envision that again. This team sniffs blood, dude. It's right there. The college football playoff is right there. And it seems like this team is so locked into their goals, which, by the way, we didn't even touch on. This team knocked off another goal, beating Ohio State, beating Michigan State in the same season, first time since 2003. So this is a goal-oriented team. They have another goal in mind. It's this Saturday to win the Big Ten championship. I don't think 8-4 Purdue's stopping that. I think they obliterate them.
I sure hope so. Yeah, but I mean, it's definitely going to be another great time there, and yeah, I can't wait to go. If anyone's ever been to Indianapolis, it's a great town. And I think last year, I remember Iowa having like fan wise, I think it was probably about 7:30 Michigan, and I think this time around, I think it has potentially of being like 90-10 or 80-20 Michigan. But Purdue, I mean, it's not a bum institution. It's a solid program. And just overall, not just in football, but I'm sure their fans will travel well, and I just can't wait to be there.
Yeah. We'll be back next week to talk no matter what. So the next Sunday after the Big Ten championship game, there will be a selection. So by this time next Tuesday, we'll know what the playoff games are. We'll be ready to talk those. We'll be ready to talk the recap of the Big Ten championship and where this Michigan team's at and where they're going. So, anything else before we go?
Oh man, I think we did a phenomenal job at knocking this all out, and I shaved my rant probably about 30 seconds shorter than it probably would have been, but yeah, man, it just feels good, man. It just feels to get that monkey off the back, and then to do it 2 years in a row, and just hopefully that this will be that watermark, that the trend continues, and our future podcasts and our future football seasons are something that we look forward to, and not necessarily dread.
Absolutely. This one hit different. Wasn't emotional, like you said. It was a middle finger. It was a we told you so. We're for real this time. We're here to stay. So definitely was a great win. So we got other business to take care of, and that's winning a Big Ten and going to win a national championship. So we could cry our eyes out once again. With that being said, I think we're out. Go Blue.
Go Blue.
Real talk.